Okay, hi everybody, and welcome to the GetRealWealth.com podcast. I'm here with my special guest. Well, I'm Steve Davis. I'm the CEO of Real Wealth Academy and the lead consultant, but I'm here with a very special guest, Kaylee McMahon, who is the apartment queen, as you can see behind me. She has 750 units under her control. She's 31 years old. Kind of makes you wonder what you're doing with your life. But instead of today talking about a specific deal, she has a wonderful story about a mentor of hers that I want her to share. She didn't even know I was going to ask her this. She shared it with me on the radio show yesterday, and it just really impressed me. But I want to set it up this way. The poor in the middle class have trouble getting out of the poor in the middle class. And I read articles and I hear people say it's the rich keeping them down, it's the government keeping them down, and this, that, and the other. I think it's actually something much simpler than that. And it comes down to an experience I had with my parents. I was very close with my parents. I loved them, they loved me. I never didn't feel like I was loved. And they passed on their financial information to me, their advice. They were always broke. I had to support them in retirement. And it wasn't that they didn't want to help me. They did. The problem was they couldn't. And I think what's happening in the poor and the middle class is exactly that over and over and over again. I didn't have multimillionaire entrepreneur high school teachers. Did you?
No.
How about college?
No.
No. So we were getting our financial information from broke people who had no idea what they were talking about, but they had titles. Parent. You're a parent, you should know. So we look up to them. You're a professor. You're a financial planner. You know, the average financial planner in the U.S. makes $65,000 a year. Yet we go to them and say, teach me how to retire. I know you can't do it, but teach me how to do it. We're going to the wrong people. And sometimes it's out of necessity, but there are great people out there that are writing books, even as far as going to seminars, workshops, things like that, that do know the right things to do. But here comes the next problem. 70% of Americans never read a nonfiction book after high school or college. Unbelievable to me. It's like, to me, every time something went wrong in my life, I went to the library. And now on the internet, I would go to the library and go, okay, I'm having trouble with relationships. Oh, a book on relationships. I'd read it. Now I would have to read 3 or 4 before I found one that applied to me, but it was totally worth it. When I wanted to learn about real estate, I went and read 20 or 30 books until I found one that made sense to me. You've got to be reading, and you have to admit that your source for information on finances was probably unqualified. Now, you found a mentor, and I applaud you because you took it and ran. I know a lot of people that are with could-be mentors, and they don't do what you did. So I give you a lot of credit for what you did. So this is the point where I want to let Kaylee talk about the mentor that helped her get her first deal. So please, if you would, share that story you shared with us on the radio.
Yeah, and I want to clarify that this person is, I call him a sponsor. Just because I've learned that there is a different lens, for men and women. And when I was looking for a mentor, yes, in the commercial real estate industry, most of it is men. And so that's kind of just who I need to work with, to be able to get ahead, is be able to find people who are willing to work with someone that's, different than them, younger than them, but hungry. So the sponsor role, or I guess title that I give him, is just because somebody that would be willing to get to know me on a personal level over time, kind of see the grit that I have or don't have. When you say you're going to do something, how often does she show up? And then eventually financially vouches for you, and says, like, I know she can close, I know that she can raise the funds, I know that, or partnering together, which is what we ended up doing. But this person was more, it's kind of a mystery to me, but I've heard through some other super successful people, like they're like, you think this person's not getting anything out of this. They really are. They really are. They see themselves in you. And a lot of the things that person saw in you, that's why they wanted to basically be a resource for you. So I've tried really hard not to abuse that resource. I've tried really hard to, in the beginning part of it, to learn as much as possible on my own, and then when I really couldn't figure out the next step, it's really just about, oh, okay, here's my network, here's probably the best person for that issue that you're having, go talk to them. And so the relationship just over time did what it did. I mean, I'll be super transparent that probably for 2 years in the beginning, or maybe like a year and 9 months or something like that, I was nervous to call him when I was having like a major issue where I felt like a complete dumbass. Like,
Yeah.
how do I not know the answer to this? This should be pretty simple. But then he'd be out somewhere, and then it's 9 or 10 at night, and call me and be like, why haven't you called me in a month? What's going on? And he would just know that like I was struggling with something and I needed to talk to somebody. So it took me quite a while to finally pull back the onion layers, and now I'm just like, hey, help, do you know, or, I have these 3 options. He'll usually throw it back to me and go, what were you gonna pick and why? And then I'll usually explain it, and usually 90% of the time that's what I was gonna do anyway. But the 10% of the time that it's not, that saved my bacon, like so many different ways. Selecting the right property manager, when I was having to reevaluate the way we were doing everything. I mean, so many different things along the way that, the insight of how this would work out on the back end, I mean, is irreplaceable. And then it became more than just someone vouching for me financially, in that personally, when I'm going through things, him and his wife care a lot about where I'm at and what's going on. And it's great to have that support team. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a powerful story, because you took the ball. Somebody was willing to pass you the ball, and you took it and ran. A lot of people get the ball, they just drop it, they quit running. That's really impressive to me, and I love the you call it a sponsor, and that's really what that particular family, because it really is a family. The wife is supportive too.
Yeah, she's like the whiz in property management, and he has a construction business, and he has a property management company, and they, yeah, she's got to be involved for sure.
That is very cool, because I know when you said he gets something out of it as well, I know what that person meant, because I've been in tears with some of the people that I mentor, because they come and tell me some story about changing their life, and they try to give me all the credit, and I'm like, no, you did that. I've laid this information out for 100 people, only 20 of them did it, you're one of them. You need to give yourself credit too. But I mean, it's brought me to tears at times. So there is a huge reward, which is why I love teaching. So tell them a little bit about the deal. What was your first deal? And I better tell the people this. When I was 27, I was just flipping houses. I was only wholesaling. By the time I was 31, I probably had 3 or 4 or 5 rent properties. She has 750 units. It's insane. So tell us about your first deal, the first deal he helped you with.
Well, honestly, before I go into that, like, that's a personality. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll see out long term how this goes, but I have kind of a flea brain, I'll learn something and then flee and then do something else, because I figure out the system and I get bored. Like with multifamily,
Interesting.
There's so many layers and it changes every week with capital markets. It's constantly a learning thing so far I haven't learned everything. So that's what keeps me excited, is learning. So the first deal, the way that it happened was through a relationship. I mean, that's the biggest message, I guess, for now, the way that multifamily works, is that I had to get over that stigma that people that schmooze their way into stuff, that they're illegitimate, or, okay, you do stuff because your buddies are doing it, not because you actually earned it or something like that. But that's not what a relationship business means. It means that people that have built time and energy and trust with you and have seen your capabilities and what you can do, they believe in you, so they give you opportunities. Like, that's it. It has nothing to do with like they just like you. They know what you're made of, kind of thing. At least that's been my experience. So the relationship here was being built over time with me saying, okay, I'm going to Google all of the best books that are out there on multifamily, read them all, go to every single conference that's available to see how everybody else is doing it, what I like, what I don't like, how they underwrite all differently, see all their spreadsheets, compare, kind of get an idea of the vernacular, because that's another thing is people can spot out a newbie like that because you don't know what a cap rate is or very simple things. So that was part of my own learning journey, but knowing this individual during that time, when I, for example, my first, it was Old Capital Conference that I guess a lot of people remember me from, where I was at a table, like maybe by myself or with one or two people, and he brought over like, hi, this is my broker, and this is my lender, and this is my property management company, and this is my whole people have fun, and then just left, and so that kind of started my. And I knew again, like if you've worked with someone and you like them and you trust them, that was my biggest, I guess, downfall in single family was asking the person that you're referring to me, did you actually go full cycle and pay this person and get a result at the end of them flipping or whatever they were doing for you? And most people just recommend their friends. So these people they've actually, used, or not used, I can't say that word, they partnered with, as part of their team. So that was the beginning of all the relationship building, and then kind of giving it a shot, going after deals and getting on lists and meeting brokers and, getting looked at like a weirdo forever. I'm like, don't care, you can't make me feel any kind of way. This is just what I'm doing. And then also having to learn to be a little smarter too about what I was talking about subject wise when I was with a male counterpart at the table. And anyway, so after a few deals of underwriting and then thinking something was good and then driving across town and then driving out of town, and because he'd be like, does it look good, does it make sense, drive over there, go tour it, and after getting burnt out, that's part of the process, is kind of beating your head up against a wall a little bit so that you quit doing certain things. And he would tell me that's probably not the best idea, but in the beginning you're kind of stubborn, and then I eventually had to just go, all right, I just trust you, like I can't do this on my own. I need to have a team. So there was a deal that it was put in front of him when he was focusing in Arizona, in Phoenix. Mm-hmm. When you go to a new market, you have to physically fly there and figure out, okay, who are the property managers, and go look at their properties they're managing, figuring out who the best contractors are, figuring out like your whole team again.
That's right.
And sometimes even like when I was in Phoenix, I had to ask for a new set of attorneys. Like people that know the law there, because Texas business code is different than it is in Arizona, kind of thing. So he was busy doing that, and this deal came across, I guess, his desk, and he goes, well, check this one out, and he'll do that every once in a while with like a smaller one, and check this out, and some made sense and some really didn't. But anyway, he just was like, I already underwrote this one and it works. I want you to underwrite it too and tell me why you think it doesn't work. And we can discuss, how you overcome those. And for example, it was, well, I don't know in that area of West Texas, like what kind of contractor am I going to use, what property manager, and the backup property manager and contractors, because there's not as many options in a market like that. So he had already flipped and sold a property that was like 30 minutes away from these two. So he's like, you can use my team, you can use the same property manager,
that is so powerful.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So it was through a relationship, and he had to vouch for me, to the broker, she can close, even though I had never closed anything before. Because part of our relationship was me going to his properties over that year of learning also, and seeing how they ordered supplies, when they would implement them, when people, put up their notice to move, like what turn it, all the things, physically seeing it. And so over time, I guess he just was like, you're ready. So.
Well, how many units was that project?
Originally, the first one that was put in front of me was 26, and then crazy things happen because they're meant to happen. But there was another apartment right around the corner where mom passed away, and it was in in a trust. And when she passed away, she was like the local real estate guru of town, and their executor was the local CPA. So he found out, I guess, through the small town talk that I was buying the other apartment complex, and so they went to the broker, and we couldn't really get any kind of financials, but we basically bought that one in tandem with the first one. So that was a lot of stuff.
And how many units was that?
So total it was 50. So that was
50
24.
units total.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, and the original person I spoke to ever in multifamily, he said start at 60 doors. I was like, well, I'm kind of close.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the economics of scale really come into effect. I always use the number 80, but 60 And definitely at 100, 200, they really start to make a huge difference. So, okay, well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. You're an inspiration to me and my members, and thank you for coming up and speaking. Everybody, thanks for listening or watching, I'm sorry, and we'll see you next time.